My name is Henry Kimura, and I've been working as a 911 dispatcher for the Pierce County Emergency Services in Tacoma, Washington for 7 years. Before you hear about the call I received on November 3rd, 2023, you need to understand something about this job. We hear terrible things every day: domestic violence, car accidents, heart attacks, overdoses, suicides. We're trained to stay calm, to gather information, to send help. We're trained to compartmentalize, to leave the trauma at work when we clock out. But some calls don't stay at work. Some calls follow you home, into your sleep, into your life. And this call, the one I got at 3:47 a.m. on a Thursday morning, is the reason I'm writing this now instead of sleeping. Because I haven't slept properly in weeks. The night started normal. I came in for my shift at midnight, relieving the evening dispatcher, Marcus Chen. The overnight shift is usually quieter than days or evenings, but we still get steady calls. Drunk drivers, bar fights, domestic situations that escalate when people have been drinking. The usual late-night emergencies in a county of almost 1 million people. I work at the Primary Emergency Communications Center for Pierce County, located in the basement of the County City building in downtown Tacoma. The dispatch center is a large room with no windows, lit by fluorescent lights that give everything a flat, colorless appearance. There are 12 workstations arranged in rows, each with multiple computer monitors showing GPS maps, unit status boards, and call intake screens. At night, only 3 or 4 positions are usually staffed. That night, it was just me and 2 other dispatchers, Tom Hendricks and Lisa Wu. Tom handles fire and medical calls. Lisa handles law enforcement, and I handle overflow and call intake. We each wear headsets connected to the 911 system, the radio system for talking to units in the field, and the administrative phone lines. The first few hours of the shift were routine. At 12:18, I took a call about a possible prowler in the Parkland area. At 1:33, a traffic accident on I-5 near the Tacoma Dome exit. At 2:15, a noise complaint from an apartment complex in Lakewood. Standard stuff, handled with standard procedures. At 3:47 a.m., the 911 line lit up on my console. Position 6, my station. I clicked the button to accept the call, and the recording system automatically began capturing the conversation. 911, what is your emergency? There was silence on the line, but not complete silence. I could hear breathing, rapid and shallow, and what sounded like movement, like someone walking quickly through brush or across gravel. In the background, I could hear wind, strong enough to cause some distortion in the audio. Hello? This is 911. Can you hear me? Yes. A male voice, young, maybe late 20s or early 30s. He was out of breath, each word coming in gasps. Yes, I need help. I'm lost. I need help. Okay, sir, I'm here to help you. Can you tell me your name? Kyle Brennan. I'm in the woods. I don't know where I am. I pulled up the GPS locator system on my screen. Every 911 call from a cell phone gives us GPS coordinates, usually accurate to within 100 meters. The system took a moment to triangulate, then displayed a location in the southern part of Pierce County, in the Cascade foothills near Ashford. Kyle, I'm showing your location as near Highway 706, east of Ashford. Is that correct? I don't know. I was hiking on the Wonderland Trail on Mount Rainier, and I got separated from my group. I tried to find my way back to the trail, but it's dark, and I don't know where I am anymore. Mount Rainier National Park covers almost 240,000 acres of mountainous wilderness. The Wonderland Trail is a 93-mile loop around the mountain, passing through some of the most remote and rugged terrain in Washington state. People get lost in that park regularly, and not all of them come back. Okay, Kyle, I need you to stay calm. Are you injured? No, I don't think so. Just scratched up from the brush. But I'm cold. It's really cold up here. November in the Cascades means snow at higher elevations and temperatures well below freezing at night. If Kyle was above the tree line, he could be in serious danger from exposure. Kyle, do you have any gear with you? A jacket, a flashlight, anything? I have my phone and a windbreaker. That's it. We were only supposed to be hiking for a few hours, so I didn't bring the full pack. My friends have all the camping gear. Where were you supposed to meet your friends? At Paradise, the Paradise Visitor Center. We were doing a day hike from Paradise to Camp Muir and back, but I stopped to take some pictures, and when I turned around, I couldn't see the group anymore. I tried to catch up, but I think I went the wrong direction. I was already typing notes into the system, preparing to dispatch a search and rescue team. Kyle, I'm going to get help to you, but it's going to take some time. Search and rescue will need to mobilize, and it could be a few hours before they reach your location. In the meantime, I need you to try to find shelter and stay warm. I know. I've been looking for somewhere to get out of the wind, but everything is just trees and rocks up here. Kyle, can you describe what you see around you? There was a pause while he looked around. Trees, lots of pine trees, I think, and it's on a slope, pretty steep. I can hear water somewhere below me, like a stream or something. That matched the terrain in the area where his GPS was showing. The Wonderland Trail crossed dozens of streams and creeks as it wound through the mountain valleys. Okay, Kyle, I want you to find the biggest tree you can and sit down with your back against it. Try to get on the leeward side, away from the wind, and keep talking to me. Okay, I'm moving. I heard his breathing get heavier as he moved through the forest. The sound of wind through the phone got quieter, suggesting he was finding some shelter. I found a big tree. I'm sitting down now. Good. Now, Kyle, I need to ask you some questions to help the search team. When did you last see your friends? I don't know exactly. Maybe 2 hours ago? I'm not sure. I didn't check the time. Do you know what time you started your hike? We left Paradise around 1 p.m. We were planning to get to Camp Muir by 3:30, rest for a bit, then head back down. I looked at the clock. 3:54 a.m. That timeline didn't make sense. Kyle, you said you started your hike at 1 p.m. on what day? Today, Thursday. Why? Kyle, it's Thursday morning right now. It's almost 4 a.m. There was a long silence. What? No, it can't be. We started in the afternoon. It's only been a few hours. Kyle, I need you to think carefully. What's the last thing you remember before you realized you were lost? Another pause, longer this time. I was taking pictures. There was a weird rock formation, really unusual, like pillars of stone in a circle. I stopped to photograph it. The light was really strange, kind of golden, even though it was late afternoon. And then I was alone, and it was dark. I felt a small cold spot form in my stomach. Time loss, confusion, unusual formations. These were red flags for something beyond a simple hiking accident. Kyle, did you hit your head at any point? Fall down or trip? No, I don't think so. I don't remember falling. Okay, I'm going to connect you with the search and rescue coordinator, but I'll stay on the line with you. Hold on. I put Kyle on hold and switched to the radio channel for Pierce County Search and Rescue. This is Pierce County Emergency Services. I have a lost hiker on Mount Rainier requesting immediate search and rescue response. The SAR coordinator, a man named Dave Richter, responded immediately. Copy, Emergency Services. What's the situation? I gave him the details. Kyle's name, last known position on the Wonderland Trail, current GPS coordinates, his lack of gear and preparation. Dave's response was professional, but concerned. That's steep terrain, and we've got weather moving in. I'm activating Team 3, but we're looking at minimum 3 hours before we can reach that location. possibly longer if conditions deteriorate. Understood. I'll maintain phone contact with the subject. I switched back to Kyle. Kyle, are you still there? Yeah, I'm here. I'm really cold though. I can't feel my fingers. That was a bad sign. Hypothermia was setting in. Kyle, I need you to move around a little bit. Stand up, walk in place, swing your arms. You need to keep your blood flowing. Okay. I heard rustling as he moved. Okay, I'm standing. Good, keep moving. The search team is being mobilized, and they're going to come find you. But you need to stay warm and stay awake. I'll try. Can you keep talking to me? I don't want to be alone right now. Of course, Kyle. I'm right here. Tell me about your friends. Who were you hiking with? My brother Derek and 2 friends from work, Amy and Justin. We try to do a big hike once a month, different trails around the state. This was supposed to be an easy one before winter really hits. And they didn't notice when you fell behind? I guess not. Derek's usually good about keeping count, but maybe he thought I was with Amy and Justin, and they thought I was with Derek. By the time anyone realized, I must have been way off the trail. It was possible, though it spoke to some pretty poor group discipline. Standard hiking safety says you never let anyone get separated, especially in terrain like Mount Rainier. Kyle, I want you to describe your exact surroundings to me. Everything you can see. It's really dark. My phone's flashlight is on, but it doesn't reach very far. I can see trees, mostly pine, I think, and lots of undergrowth. Behind me is a huge Douglas fir. I'm leaning against it, and down the slope, I can see... Wait, what is it? There's a light, down the hill, through the trees, like a campfire or something. I felt that cold spot in my stomach again. Kyle, can you tell how far away the light is? Maybe a quarter mile? It's hard to judge in the dark, but someone's down there. Someone could help me. Kyle, I need you to stay where you are. Do not go toward that light. Why not? If there are people down there. Kyle, your GPS shows you're in a very remote area. There shouldn't be any campers in that location at this time of year. The park restricts camping to designated sites in November, and none of them are near your position. But I can see the light. It's definitely a fire. Kyle, please, stay where you are. The search team is on their way to your GPS location. If you move, they won't be able to find you. There was a long pause. Okay, I'll stay here. But someone is down there. I believe you're seeing a light, but we need to wait for the search team to check it out. Can you describe the light more specifically? It's orange, flickering like fire, and I think I can see shadows moving around it. People, maybe? Yeah, definitely people. 3 or 4 of them, moving around the fire. Are they making any noise? Can you hear voices? No, just the wind and that stream. No voices. That was odd. A group of people around a campfire in the wilderness at 4 a.m. should be talking, making some noise. But Kyle was hearing nothing. Kyle, I want you to turn off your phone's flashlight and sit very quietly. Just observe that light, but don't draw attention to yourself. Why? You're scaring me. I'm being cautious. There's a chance that light isn't what it appears to be. Please, just turn off your light and stay quiet. Okay, lights off. Oh God, it's so dark now. I can't see anything except that fire down there. Minutes passed. I stayed on the line, listening to Kyle breathe, monitoring his GPS position to make sure he wasn't moving. The other dispatchers were busy with their own calls, not paying attention to me. Which was good, because what I was thinking, what I was suspecting, wasn't something I could easily explain. I've worked in emergency services long enough to hear stories. Stories that don't make it into official reports. Stories that dispatchers and cops and firefighters tell each other late at night when the conversation gets weird. Stories about calls that don't make sense. Situations that defy logic. There are legends in the Pacific Northwest about lights in the forest that lead people astray. Will-o'-the-wisps, ghost lights, whatever you want to call them. Lights that appear in the wilderness and lure people deeper into danger. I'd always dismissed those stories as folklore, the kind of things people tell to scare each other. But Kyle was seeing a fire where no fire should be, with people who made no sound. Kyle, is the light moving at all? No, it's staying in the same place, but the shadows are still moving around it. Okay, keep watching it, but don't approach it. Help is on the way. I checked the time. 4:17 a.m. The search team had been mobilized for 30 minutes. They'd be loading gear, organizing into their standard search formation, plotting routes on their maps. Dave Richter knew his job, and his team was professional. They'd reach Kyle as fast as humanly possible, but it wouldn't be fast enough if Kyle's situation deteriorated. Hypothermia could kill in hours, especially if he was already cold and tired. Kyle, how are you feeling? Still cold? Yeah, really cold. I'm shivering a lot, and I'm getting tired. I need you to stay awake, Kyle. Keep moving. Keep your blood flowing. Stand up and walk around that tree. Don't sit down. I don't want to move. I just want to sleep. That was a classic sign of advanced hypothermia. The person becomes lethargic, wants to sleep, doesn't realize they're dying. Kyle, you cannot go to sleep. If you sleep, you might not wake up. I need you to stand up right now. I'm so tired, though. Kyle, I raised my voice using my command tone. Stand up now. That's an order. There was rustling, groaning. Okay, I'm standing. Good. Now I want you to do jumping jacks. Can you do that? I'll try. I heard him moving, his breathing getting heavier with exertion. It wasn't much, but it would generate body heat, keep his core temperature from dropping further. Kyle, tell me more about that fire. Can you still see it? Yeah, it's still there. And wait, that's weird. What's weird? The people around the fire, they're not wearing normal camping clothes. They're wearing, I don't know, robes or something. Long, dark robes with hoods. The cold spot in my stomach spread. Kyle, are you sure that's what you're seeing? I'm looking right at them. They're wearing dark robes, and they're standing in a circle around the fire, and they're holding their hands up like they're praying or chanting or something. But you still don't hear any voices. No, it's completely silent except for the wind. I radioed Dave Richter again. SAR coordinator, this is emergency services. What's your ETA to the subject? We're loading into vehicles now. ETA to Trailhead is 40 minutes, then approximately 2 to 3 hours. On foot to reach the coordinates. 2 to 3 hours. Kyle might not last that long in his condition. Copy that. Be advised, the subject is reporting visual anomalies in his area. He claims to see a fire and multiple people in the vicinity of his location. There was a pause before Dave responded. Copy that, emergency services. We'll proceed with caution. I knew what he was thinking. Visual hallucinations could be a sign of hypothermia or head injury. Kyle might be seeing things that weren't there. But I had a bad feeling that what Kyle was seeing was real, just not what it appeared to be. Kyle, I want you to very carefully move to the other side of that tree, putting the trunk between you and that fire. Why? Just do it, please. I heard movement, rustling of undergrowth. Okay, I'm on the other side. Can you still see the fire? Yeah, I can see it around the edge of the tree. And, oh shit. What? They're looking at me, the people in the robes. They turned toward me, and they're looking right at me. Kyle, can you see their faces? No, the hoods are too deep. It's just shadow where their faces should be. Kyle, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Turn your phone on silent mode. Turn off any sounds, any lights except the screen. And then I want you to move quietly away from that tree, going uphill, away from the fire. But you said not to move. You said to stay in one place so the search team can find me. I know what I said, but I'm changing that now. Move uphill, away from the fire, and keep moving. I'll guide you using GPS. I don't understand. What's happening? Just move, Kyle. Now. I heard him moving, branches cracking under his feet, his breathing getting heavier as he climbed the slope. On my screen, his GPS dot began to move, slowly, erratically, but definitely moving uphill. Kyle, what's the fire doing? I'm looking back. Oh God, they're moving. The people are leaving the fire and coming up the hill. They're coming toward me. How fast are they moving? Not fast. They're just walking, but they're definitely following me. Keep moving, Kyle. Go as fast as you safely can. On my screen, I pulled up a topographical map of the area and overlaid Kyle's GPS position. He was on a steep slope, about 800 feet below a ridgeline. If he could reach the ridge, he'd be in more open terrain where the search team could potentially spot him more easily. But he was also in some of the most remote wilderness in Washington state, being pursued by something that shouldn't exist. Kyle, I'm going to guide you to a ridgeline. It's about 800 vertical feet above you. Can you make it? I don't know. I'm so tired and cold. You have to try. Keep moving uphill. Follow the slope. Minutes passed. Kyle's breathing was ragged, and I could hear him stumbling occasionally, catching himself on trees and rocks. But his GPS position was steadily climbing, moving toward the ridgeline. Are they still following you? I asked. I can't see them anymore. It's too dark. But I can hear something now. What do you hear? Singing, like chanting, but really deep and slow. It's coming from behind me, from where the fire was. I could hear it faintly through the phone, barely audible beneath the wind and Kyle's breathing. A low, rhythmic sound that made the hair on my arms stand up. It wasn't a language I recognized, wasn't even sounds that seemed like they should come from human throats. Don't listen to it, I said. Focus on climbing. Focus on my voice. It's getting louder. Oh God, it's getting so much louder. The chanting was clearly audible through the phone now, multiple voices in harmony, creating a sound that was both beautiful and deeply wrong. I could feel it resonating in my chest even through the phone connection. Kyle, run, run now. I heard him break into a run, crashing through the forest, branches whipping at him. His breathing was desperate, panicked. On my screen, his GPS position was moving faster, but erratically, zigzagging across the slope. I can see them, Kyle shouted. They're all around me. How are they all around me? They were behind me. Keep running, head for the ridge. They're not moving, but they're everywhere, standing in the trees, dozens of them, just standing and chanting. Kyle, listen to me. They're trying to confuse you. Pick a direction uphill and run. Don't look at them. The chanting got louder still, filling my headset, making it hard to concentrate. Lisa Wu looked over at me from her station. You okay? What's that sound? I'm fine, I said, waving her off. Just a weird call. But I wasn't fine. The chanting was doing something to me, making me dizzy, making it hard to think. I could only imagine what it was doing to Kyle, already hypothermic and exhausted, surrounded by figures that shouldn't exist. I can't. Kyle's voice was fading, losing strength. Kyle, stay with me. Run! His GPS position had stopped moving. He was about 600 feet below the ridgeline, stationary in the middle of dense forest. Kyle, what's happening? Why did you stop? They're in a circle around me. I'm in the middle of them. They're just standing there, all facing me, chanting. How many? I don't know, 20, 30. They're all wearing those robes, and the fire is back. What do you mean the fire is back? It's here, right here in the middle of the circle. But it wasn't here a second ago. It just appeared. On my screen, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Kyle's GPS position was showing an altitude change, but he wasn't moving horizontally. The altitude reading was dropping rapidly. Minus 600 feet. Minus 620. Minus 640. He was sinking into the ground. Kyle, are you moving? Are you sinking? I don't understand. The ground is soft. I'm sinking into the ground like it's water. I'm up to my knees now. The fire is getting closer. Kyle, you need to swim. Move your arms and legs like you're swimming. Try to stay on top of the ground. I'm trying. It's not working. I'm up to my waist now. The chanting was deafening now, coming through the phone so loud I had to pull my headset away from my ears. The other dispatchers were looking at me now, concerned. Rachel, what's going on? Tom Hendricks asked. I ignored him, focusing on Kyle. Kyle, grab onto something. A tree, a root, anything. There's nothing, just the fire and the people in robes. I'm up to my chest. Help me. Please help me. Kyle, the search team is coming. Hold on. I can't hold on. There's nothing to hold on to. The fire is so close now. It's all around me. And they're reaching for me. Oh God, they're reaching for me. And I can see inside the robes and there's nothing there. They're empty. They're empty. And they're reaching for me. His screaming cut off abruptly. The chanting stopped at exactly the same moment, leaving only silence, not even the sound of wind or breathing. Kyle! Kyle! Can you hear me? Kyle! Nothing. I looked at my screen. His GPS position was still showing, still transmitting, but the altitude reading had bottomed out at minus 1,200 feet. 1,200 feet below ground level. That wasn't possible. I keyed the radio. SAR coordinator, this is emergency services. I've lost contact with the subject. Last known position. I read off the coordinates. Be advised, situation is unclear. Proceed with extreme caution. Copy, emergency services. We're approximately 90 minutes from that location. 90 minutes. I sat there staring at my screen, at Kyle's GPS position showing him 1,200 feet underground, knowing that whatever the search team found when they reached those coordinates, it wouldn't be Kyle. Not alive anyway. Maybe not at all. I stayed on shift for the rest of the night, monitoring the search team's progress. They reached Kyle's last known position at 6:47 a.m., just as dawn was breaking over the Cascades. Dave Richter's voice came over the radio, and he sounded shaken. Emergency services. We're at the coordinates. We've found something. What did you find? There's a clearing here that doesn't show on any of our maps. Perfect circle, maybe 50 feet across. The ground inside the circle is disturbed. Looks like something dug up from beneath. And there are marks in the dirt. Looks like someone wrote symbols or something. Any sign of the subject? Negative. But we found his phone. It's sitting in the exact center of the circle, screen still on, still connected to the 911 call. Battery shows 93%. That was impossible. Kyle had been using his phone for over 3 hours, with the screen on, the GPS running, the call connected. The battery should have been nearly dead. What about the surrounding area? I asked. We're expanding the search now, but... He paused. Rachel, this doesn't feel right. This whole place feels wrong. The birds aren't singing. There are no animal sounds at all. It's too quiet. Be careful, Dave. Always am. The search continued for 3 days. They covered a 20-square-mile area around the clearing, using dogs, drones, helicopters, and dozens of volunteers. They found no trace of Kyle Brennan. No blood, no torn clothing, no tracks leading away from the clearing. Nothing except his phone sitting in the middle of those symbols. His brother Derek was interviewed extensively. He confirmed that Kyle had been with them on the hike, that they'd noticed he was missing around 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, that they'd searched for an hour before calling 911 at 4:45 p.m. But I had received Kyle's call at 3:47 a.m. Friday morning, 12 hours later. And Kyle had insisted it was Thursday afternoon, that he'd only been separated from his group for a couple hours. Either Kyle had lost an entire night and didn't remember it, or something had happened to him that existed outside normal time. The Park Service sent investigators. They surveyed the clearing, photographed the symbols in the dirt, took soil samples. Their report noted unusual soil composition inconsistent with surrounding area, and symbols of unknown origin, possibly archaeological significance. They didn't mention the impossible GPS altitude readings. They didn't mention Kyle's description of robed figures and appearing fires. They classified it as a missing hiker case, presumed dead from exposure, body not recovered. I was interviewed by the investigators, and I gave them an edited version of what happened. I confirmed the timeline, confirmed Kyle's reported position, confirmed that he had become disoriented and separated from his group. I didn't mention the figures, the chanting, the sinking into the ground. I told them his phone had died before the search team arrived. Because who would believe the truth? Who would believe that a man had sunk 1,200 feet into solid ground while being pulled down by empty robes? The official recording of the 911 call was archived in the system. I listened to it once, a week later, trying to understand what had happened. The recording confirmed everything I remembered. Kyle's voice, his descriptions, the chanting that got progressively louder. It was all there, except for one detail. In the background of the recording, beneath Kyle's voice and the chanting, there was another sound I hadn't noticed during the call. Very faint, almost subliminal, but definitely there. The sound of other voices. Hundreds of them, thousands, all screaming. I haven't been back to that part of Mount Rainier. I haven't taken any calls related to that area. When I see a 911 call come in from those coordinates, I transfer it to another dispatcher. Because I know what's there now. I know what's waiting in those woods, in that clearing that doesn't appear on maps. I know about the robed figures that aren't really there, about the fire that appears from nowhere, about the ground that swallows people and takes them somewhere else, somewhere down. Kyle Brennan wasn't the first person to disappear from Mount Rainier, and he won't be the last. The park has dozens of unsolved missing persons, cases dating back decades. Some of them were probably accidents, people who fell into crevasses or got lost and died from exposure. But I wonder how many of them made calls like Kyle's. How many of them saw fires where there shouldn't be fires, saw figures in robes standing in circles, felt the ground turn soft beneath their feet. How many of them are still down there, 1,200 feet below the surface, in whatever place exists beneath the mountain? 3 weeks after Kyle disappeared, his family held a memorial service. I didn't attend. I couldn't face them, couldn't pretend to grieve for someone when I knew that grief was inadequate for what had actually happened to him. Instead, I requested a meeting with my supervisor, Captain Linda Morrison. I needed to tell someone what I knew, even if they didn't believe me. We met in her office at the Emergency Services Building. It was a small room with filing cabinets, a desk covered in paperwork, and a window looking out at the parking lot. Normal, mundane, safe. "Rachel, what's this about?" Linda asked. "Your evaluation isn't for another 2 months. It's about the Kyle Brennan call. I need to tell you what really happened." Her expression became guarded. "The investigation is closed. He was a lost hiker who succumbed to exposure. The body wasn't recovered, which is unfortunate, but not unusual in that terrain. That's not what happened. Rachel, please just listen." I told her everything. The robed figures, the chanting, the impossible GPS readings, the sound of thousands of screaming voices in the background of the recording. I expected her to dismiss me, to suggest I take some time off, maybe see a counselor. Instead, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she opened a filing cabinet and pulled out a folder, old and worn, marked confidential. "What you're telling me isn't new," she said, placing the folder on her desk. "Every few years, we get a call like this. Someone lost in the wilderness, seeing things that don't make sense, and then they vanish. Sometimes we recover a body. Usually we don't." I stared at the folder. How many? In Pierce County alone, 7 confirmed cases in the last 20 years with similar characteristics. And those are just the ones where the call was documented and flagged. Could be more. Why doesn't anyone know about this? Because what would we tell them? That there's something in the mountains that takes people. That there are places where reality doesn't work right. The official explanation is always environmental hazards, exposure, animal attacks. People accept those explanations because they make sense. But we know the truth. We know that something is happening. We don't know what it is or why. And until we do, all we can do is document it and warn people to stay away from the high-risk areas. Is anyone investigating? I mean, really investigating? Linda closed the folder. There was a team from the University of Washington about 10 years ago. Anthropologists and geologists studying the disappearances. They spent 2 months in the mountains, surveying sites where people had gone missing. What did they find? They found the clearings, dozens of them, scattered across Mount Rainier, all showing the same characteristics: circular shape, unusual soil, symbols in the dirt. They took samples, did carbon dating on the symbols. Some of them were recent. Some of them were over 800 years old. 800 years. Whatever was taking people from those mountains had been doing it for centuries. The team published a preliminary report, Linda continued, suggested the clearings were related to ancient indigenous rituals, possible burial sites, or sacred grounds. They were planning a follow-up expedition to study the phenomena more thoroughly. What happened? 3 members of the research team disappeared during the follow-up expedition, vanished without a trace from one of the clearings. The university shut down the project immediately, classified all the research data, and pretended it never happened. I felt sick. So we just let it keep happening. We just let people go into those mountains knowing they might disappear. We put up warning signs. We restrict access during certain times of year. We train our search and rescue teams to recognize the signs and get out fast if they encounter one of those clearings. But we can't close an entire national park, and we can't tell people the real reason why certain areas are dangerous. Because they wouldn't believe us. Because it sounds insane, and because the moment we acknowledge it officially, we open ourselves up to liability lawsuits, panic, and a media circus that would destroy this department's credibility. She had a point. I could imagine the news headlines. Local 911 center claims supernatural force taking hikers. We'd be laughed out of existence. So what do? I asked. What we always do. We take the calls, we send help, and we hope that people are smart enough to stay on the marked trails and hike in groups. That's all we can do. It felt inadequate, but I understood her position. We were dispatchers, not paranormal investigators. Our job was to connect people in crisis with the resources that could help them. When those resources weren't enough, when something beyond normal emergency response was needed, we were powerless. I left Linda's office with the folder, which she'd given me to read. It contained 7 case files, each one similar to Kyle's. Hikers reporting strange lights, missing time, robed figures, impossible phenomena. All of them had vanished. None of them had been found. I read through the cases that night at home, unable to sleep. Each one was heartbreaking in its own way. People who'd gone into the mountains seeking adventure or solitude and had found something else instead. Something that had taken them away to wherever Kyle had gone. One case stood out to me. From 2011, a woman named Patricia Mendez had called 911 from the Paradise area of Mount Rainier. She reported being followed by people who weren't quite people and described them wearing dark clothing and moving in ways that didn't look natural. The last thing she had said before the call disconnected was they're singing and I can't look away from them. Her body was found 3 days later in a clearing 2 miles from her last known position. The autopsy report noted severe internal hemorrhaging, consistent with massive crush injuries, but there were no external wounds, no broken bones, no bruises. It was as if something had squeezed her from the inside. The case file included photos from the scene. Patricia lying in the center of a circular clearing, surrounded by symbols scratched into the dirt. Her face was frozen in an expression of absolute terror. I put the folder down and tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the chanting from Kyle's call. I heard those thousands of voices screaming beneath it. Over the next few weeks, I became obsessed with understanding what had happened. I researched indigenous legends from the Pacific Northwest, looking for stories that might explain the clearings and the robed figures. I found plenty of legends about spirits in the mountains, about places where the veil between worlds was thin, about beings that existed in the spaces between reality. The local Puyallup and Nisqually tribes had stories about Mount Rainier being a place of power, a dwelling place for spirits that demanded respect. They had names for different parts of the mountain, different areas that were considered sacred or dangerous. Some areas were never to be entered, especially at night or during certain times of year. I tried to map the known disappearance sites against tribal legends about forbidden areas. There was some correlation, but not perfect. Some of the clearings were in places tribes had considered sacred. Others were in areas with no particular significance in the legends. Whatever was happening, it wasn't entirely explained by indigenous knowledge. It was something older, or something different, or something that existed outside the framework of any human culture. I started having dreams about the clearings. In the dreams, I was walking through the forest at night, and I could see fires in the distance. I'd walk toward them, knowing I shouldn't, but unable to stop myself. And when I reached the clearings, I'd see the robed figures standing in circles, chanting in that deep, resonant voice that made my bones vibrate. Sometimes in the dreams, I'd try to run away, but my feet would sink into the ground, pulling me down. I'd wake up gasping, feeling like I was suffocating, like tons of earth were pressing down on me. Tom Hendricks noticed I wasn't doing well. "You okay, Rachel? You look like you haven't slept in days." "I'm fine, just some personal stuff." "Is this about that hiker call, the Brennan case?" I looked at him sharply. "How did you know?" "I pulled the audio from that night. I heard what was on the recording. That chanting, those screams in the background. I wanted to understand what you dealt with. And it's the most disturbing thing I've heard in 15 years of doing this job. I don't know what happened to that guy, but it wasn't a normal lost hiker situation. No, it wasn't." Tom leaned against my workstation. "There are things in these mountains, Henry. Things we don't understand. I grew up here, been hiking these trails since I was a kid. And I've seen things that don't make sense. Lights that move through the forest in patterns that aren't natural. Areas where animals refuse to go. Places where you feel watched even though you're alone. Have you ever encountered one of the clearings?" He nodded slowly. "Once, about 10 years ago, I was hiking off trail in the Tatoosh Range. Found a circular clearing that looked just like the ones in those case files. Had the symbols in the dirt, had that wrong feeling to it. I got the hell out of there fast." "Did you report it?" "To who? The Park Service? They just say it was an archaeological site. The police? They'd think I was crazy. So I marked it on my personal maps and made sure never to go back to that area." "There are probably dozens more we don't know about," I said. "Probably hundreds. The park covers over 236,000 acres, most of it wilderness. We've barely explored a fraction of it. Who knows what's out there?" The conversation didn't make me feel better. If anything, it reinforced how helpless we were. These clearings existed. They'd been taking people for centuries, and there was nothing we could do about it. 2 months after Kyle's disappearance, I received another call that made my blood run cold. It was 2:17 a.m., and the 911 line lit up with a call from the Mount Rainier area. Same general region where Kyle had vanished. I accepted the call with trembling hands. 911, what is your emergency? I'm lost. A female voice, young, terrified. I'm in the woods and I'm lost and I can see lights. Ma'am, what's your name? Sarah Vickers. I was camping with my boyfriend at Cougar Rock, and I went to use the bathroom and I got turned around in the dark, and now I can't find the campground and there are lights in the trees. I checked her GPS position. She was about 4 miles from Cougar Rock Campground, deep in the forest, too far to have walked from the bathroom. Sarah, describe the lights you're seeing. They're like fires, I think, through the trees, moving slowly. And I can hear something. Singing? No, chanting. Really deep voices chanting. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. Sarah, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Turn around and walk in the opposite direction from those lights. Walk as fast as you can. But they might be able to help me find the campground. No, they won't help you. Please, Sarah, walk away from the lights, now. I don't understand. Why, Sarah, please, walk away from them right now. Something in my voice must have gotten through to her. I heard her breathing accelerate, heard her start to move through the brush. Okay, I'm walking away, but they're getting closer. The lights are moving toward me. Run, Sarah. Run now and don't stop. For the next 20 minutes, I guided Sarah through the forest, watching her GPS position, directing her away from the clearings I knew were in that area. The coordinates from Kyle's case were burned into my memory, and I made sure Sarah didn't go anywhere near them. She kept reporting that the lights were following her, that the chanting was getting louder. But I kept her moving, kept her focused on my voice, rather than what was behind her. Finally, miraculously, she broke through to a service road. A Park Service Patrol vehicle found her 30 minutes later, hypothermic and in shock, but alive. She was the first person I'd managed to save from the clearings. When I got home that morning after my shift, I cried for an hour, releasing all the tension and fear and guilt I'd been carrying since Kyle's disappearance. But the relief didn't last long, because I knew Sarah had only survived through a combination of luck and my intervention. The next person who called might not be so fortunate. And there would be a next person. There was always a next person. I'm writing this now because I need people to know what's out there. I need people to understand that there are places in this world where the normal rules don't apply, where something ancient and incomprehensible waits in the darkness. If you hike in the Pacific Northwest, especially around Mount Rainier, be careful. Stay on marked trails. Don't hike alone. Don't approach strange lights in the forest. If you find a circular clearing with symbols scratched in the dirt, leave immediately and don't look back. And if you ever call 911 from those mountains, if you ever report seeing robed figures or hearing chanting or feeling the ground go soft beneath your feet, I hope you get a dispatcher who knows what those signs mean. I hope you get someone who will tell you to run, who will guide you to safety, who will believe you when you describe the impossible. Because what happened to Kyle Brennan can happen to anyone. Those clearings don't discriminate. They don't care if you're an experienced hiker or a novice, if you're young or old, if you believe in the supernatural or not. They're there, waiting. They've been there for centuries, and they'll still be there long after we're all gone. I still work as a 911 dispatcher. I still take calls from people in crisis. But every time the phone rings at 3 a.m., every time I see a call coming from the mountains, I feel that cold spot in my stomach return. Because I know what might be on the other end of that line. I know what that person might be seeing, what they might be hearing, what might be waiting for them in the darkness. And I know that all I can offer them are words and directions and prayers, that it will be enough to bring them home. Sometimes it is. Sarah Vickers survived. So did a few others I've guided through similar situations since then. But sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes the call ends in screaming and silence, and another person vanishes into the mountains, leaving nothing behind but GPS coordinates, that lead to an empty clearing and questions that will never be answered. Kyle Brennan's family still calls the department occasionally, asking if there's been any news, any leads, any hope. I always have to tell them no. The case is still open, still unsolved, still a mystery. But it's not a mystery to me. I know exactly what happened to Kyle. He walked into one of those clearings. He was taken by the things that live there, and he was pulled down into whatever exists beneath the mountain. And somewhere down there, 1,200 feet below the surface, in a place that shouldn't exist, he's still screaming, just like all the others, just like everyone who came before him and everyone who will come after. The mountain remembers them all. The mountain keeps them all. And the mountain is always hungry for more.